now be an opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. Thank you. You may be seated. Honorable members, the first item on the order paper is questions addressed to the Deputy President. Please settle down, honorable members. Members may press the talk button on their desks if they wish to ask supplementary question. I wish to remind members that the names of members requesting supplementary question will be cleared as soon as the Deputy President starts answering the fourth supplementary question. The first question has been asked by Honorable D.R. Direko. Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The Interministerial Committee on Service Delivery at district level, it is an important institutional mechanism to coordinate and align government's intervention to support all our municipalities in addressing service delivery bottlenecks and key developmental challenges that continue to negatively impact on the quality of lives of our ordinary people. The President established this IMC in order to improve the overall performance and the state of local government in respect of key legislative mandates of governance, integrated development, as well as service delivery. The ongoing work that the Interministerial Committee is seized with constitute the core component of the President's coordinating council agenda, focusing on providing integrated and holistic support to all our municipalities. Through the participation of premiers, SALGA, the PCC remains an important intergovernmental platform to direct, consolidate, and provide rapid leadership responses to challenges facing our municipalities, including the overall financial sustainability and the implementation of revenue enhancement strategies within our municipalities. Where existing and potential challenges have been identified, the IMC has a responsibility to ensure that rapid intervention plans are developed and implemented within the framework of a district-based delivery model that government has adopted. More importantly, the IMC on service delivery at district level is tasked with providing political oversight and leadership in the implementation of the district-based delivery model to foster coordination, coherence, and collaboration and integration across all spheres of government in the development and execution of the common intergovernmental plan within a defined district municipal space. In the main, this new model calls for better alignment of infrastructure plans, joined up implementation of sector plans, as well as efficient and effective intergovernmental system to deploy our limited fiscal resources for better impact on the ground. In the process of implementation, government is committed to broad-based community inclusion participation and empowerment in a manner that deepens social cohesion and stability. Partnership with the private sector and other non-state sectors are underway to ensure that everyone's contribution is brought to bear in building the country of our dreams together. Embedded in the work of the IMC at district level is our focus on the integrity and the resilience of governance system to give effect to the implementation of key service delivery and development priorities. This includes the implementation of effective financial management system and controls that ensure the long-term financial stability and sustainability of each and every municipality. As part of the package of integrated support to improve the performance of municipalities, national and provincial departments of COGTA, National Treasury, provincial treasuries are supporting municipalities in the area of revenue collection to ensure that municipalities are able to meet their service delivery obligation. I'm advised that to date, the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs has piloted and a simplified revenue plan in 42 selected municipalities, which is aimed at enhancing the municipal revenue management and debt collection system in local government. Progress on these municipalities is closely monitored by COGTA as well as National Treasury. The successful implementation of the revenue plan will obviously result in improved revenue management, reduced municipal consumer debt, and protection of municipal revenue. The objective of a simplified revenue plan project is to assist municipalities to review and improve the generic replicable model in the revenue plan. Targeted support is being provided to distressed municipalities to ensure that critical areas of revenue enhancement are strengthened and institutionalized. Some of the key measures include ensuring revenue policies are in place in some of these municipalities, ensuring that clear credit control policies are implemented, putting in place accurate and credible billing system, ensuring that everyone who should be paying is actually paying property rates and services. Monitoring of debtors' accounts to ensure that those who must pay meet their obligation on time. Implementing effective control systems to prevent revenue leakages, wastages, and corrupt practices that deplete the money that has been already collected. With these interventions in place, we are certain that there will be improvements on the integrated development and delivery of services within our municipalities. Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Deputy President. Before I give the supplementary question to Honorable Dirego, members, please join me in welcoming the Naval College from Gordons Bay up there in the gallery and other members in the gallery. Welcome to Parliament. Thank you. Honorable Dirego?
Thank you, Speaker.
Deputy.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The Honorable Deputy President, having listened to your detailed response to my question, I wish to commend our government for the adoption and implementation of the district coordination model, which I believe is going to assist the municipality, and also the 6 measures that you've just alluded to on your response. Now, my follow-up question is as follows. How do you going to ensure that the money that has been collected to the municipalities is protected from maladministration, also from the corrupt activities that may happen in the municipalities, and also to mismanagement? And also, in our country, we have some people who are receiving income monthly, including those who are working for government and the councillors, but they are not paying for the services to the municipality, but they are paying services for other institutions that they owe. So what is our government message to such citizens in our country? Thank you.
Deputy President, before you respond, honorable members, the rule is that you ask a single supplementary question. All the other stuff should be considered as background. So choose your best question and ask it. Go ahead, Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker, and thanks for the follow-up question and the support that we're getting in terms of this integrated model. Now, to ensure that revenue is collected and the revenue that is collected is protected, we are putting credit control measures. Now, those credit control measures, National Treasury together with the Department of COGTA are working together with all our municipalities to ensure that payments that are made to suppliers are credible, they've been checked, so that we minimize the wastages, we minimize corruption. Now, we find that this is working because all the projects that are implemented in that district are indicated on a dashboard. Progress is being reported every month, and payments is being reported so that we ensure that there's no money that is lost. Of course, the problem that municipalities are experiencing is the payment for services. Our people are not paying for the services. Probably we should use this platform to encourage our people, all of us, to pay for services rendered. Our people must pay for electricity, our people must pay for water that they consume. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Hlengwa.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Honorable Deputy President, you speak as though in your initial response it's the first time we've had local government in this country. And that is where the problem is, because we may be misdiagnosing the problem. The issue is not that systems are not there. The law is there, system is there. It's a matter of a lack of enforcement of existing laws and absence of consequence management where looting and corruption has taken place. And I think it's important that we drill into that, because we've over-relied on the AG and we've not listened to what the AG has said. You've got 14 municipalities that have received disclaimed or adverse findings without any intervention. Therefore, Deputy President, the fundamental question then becomes, having built in Section 139, which is supposed to respond to shortcomings and failures in municipalities, but we've seen it being used as a political tool as opposed to being one to deal with administrative problems. What plans does government have in place now to make sure that we standardize and regularize the implementation of 139?
Honorable member, your time was eaten by your background story.
Now,
Honorable Hlengwa, your time has expired. Your time has expired, sir. 21 seconds over the time. Take your seat. Take your seat, honorable member. Deputy President.
Well, thank you very much. I'm not aware of this allegation that Section 139 is being utilized as a political tool to settle scores. What I'm aware of is that before you implement Section 139, there's an assessment that you make. And it's not only the province that takes that step. The province can recommend the implementation of Section 139, but there should be concurrence by the National Council of Provinces. So there's no way that probably a province or an MEC in a province can utilize this instrument for political gains. An assessment is made of the functioning of the municipality. And if it is found that the municipality can't deliver services because of a certain number of shortcomings, therefore, there's no other way besides introducing a curatorship, introducing an administrator to administer the municipality for a certain duration until we satisfy that services have been brought back to our people. So I don't concur that we use Section 139 for political gains. In the case of KZN, where the honorable member is coming from, you'll realize that the provincial government made an assessment of a number of municipalities. And out of that assessment, decisions were made either that affected leadership, political leadership, or affected managers. Thank you very much.
Honorable Zungula of the ATM.
Deputy Speaker, it is fine. I'll come in during my own question. Thank you.
Honorable Nchaisa.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Deputy President, my counterpart, because I'm also Deputy President.
Okay, thank you very much.
What is it actually? What is it actually that you are doing to assist the women in small businesses? I just imagine that those women like the street of Matiatia trying to sell, but getting nothing. But I want something, Deputy President, that is something practical that you can tell me that you are doing this now to assist these people. Because I don't see anything, please. Try to convince me. Thank you.
Awusazama ukuyilinka nequestion yokuqala baba. Deputy President, please, if you can answer your fellow Deputy President.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. To try and bring the question closer to the first question, I think this district-based model is trying to intervene in a very holistic way. As much as we are focusing to service delivery, we are also focusing on the economic development of the entire district. We are also focusing on infrastructure that will assist the economy in that district. So definitely, small and medium enterprises will be assisted as we try and stimulate economic development in that district. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Brink, GA.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy President, several municipalities in northwestern Limpopo has lost hundreds of millions of rands in the collapse of VBS Bank. Many of these municipalities already struggle to collect revenue and now even to deliver basic services. To date, not a single municipal official or politician, be it from the EFF or the DA or the ANC, I apologize, have been charged criminally for their conduct in the VBS raid. My question, Deputy President, is what urgent steps is your government taking to ensure that at least civil action is taken to recover some of the money lost in the VBS raid. Thank you.
Deputy President.
Thank you very much. To my recollection, I'm aware that there are current investigations that are going on with regarding to the VBS matter. Now, we'll await for the conclusion of those investigations. And what I can say now is that we've got institutions in the country that are capable, that are dealing with these matters. Surely, where money has been stolen, I think the law must take its course. Where corruption has taken place, the law must take its course. But we should give space to the law enforcement agencies to do their work without our interference. So I can assure that this matter is being investigated at the right time. The law enforcement agencies are going to make their own pronouncement. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Honorable members, we now move to question 8, which has been asked by Honorable Steenhuisen. He has deferred to Honorable Gigi Heliwi to take the supplementary question. Deputy President.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Our government is tirelessly working to address the concerns that were raised by the rating agencies. The concerns include slow economic growth, sustainability of our state-owned enterprises, and the rising government debt. Our collective efforts must help the country not only to mitigate the risk of downgrades, but also to return it to a healthy investment rating. It is in our interest as a country to unite in championing sustainable efforts to collectively address the concerns that are raised by these rating agencies. With clear focus and clear determination, it is possible to turn the tide. The world still believes in South Africa, and this interest was expressed when Team South Africa, led by Minister Ntshavheni, engaged with about 300 investors at the 2019 Nordic Africa Business Association Summit that was held the past week in Oslo. Together with the Nordic countries, we are looking into areas of overlapping interests, possibilities of cooperation in the blue economy, smart cities, and advancing the digital skills for our young people. As government, we continue to advance our domestic efforts towards creating an enabling environment for taking up this investment. In the short term, we need to speed up the implementation of the Economic Stimulus and Recovery Plan, which outlines a range of measures to ignite activity and build investor confidence. We also continue to expedite the implementation of the 2018 Job Summit commitments, particularly on areas where business has identified inhibitors to investment. Business is committed to working with government in finding lasting solutions in the labor market to address the crisis of job losses in the entire country. Under the leadership of the President, monthly meetings are being held with business and labor to monitor progress on the implementation of the Job Summit commitments by all our social partners. In this engagement, government is committed to identifying and dealing with legislative and policy inhibitors and improving the ease of doing business. We are committed to ensure that we make it easy to do business in this country. The recently appointed Presidential Economic Advisory Council will play the much-needed role of coordinating all these efforts and ensuring that all the necessary elements of sustainable economic recovery are put in place. Our government continues to strengthen partnership with social partners. In particular, our ongoing engagement with the private sector are focused on ensuring that the investment conference commitments made in the past year are implemented. We're encouraged by the reports that substantial investment projects that were pledged last year in the investment conference have entered the implementation phase. We call on all stakeholders to continue with their support at the second investment conference that will be held this year in November. This is a further opportunity to partner in advancing South Africa's investment book towards a 5-year target of 1.2 trillion rand of investment. Through this public-private growth initiative, our country will see growth in investment that will turn the economy around. South Africa's participation in the African continental free trade will promote and provide opportunities for locally manufactured exports in the continent, thereby expanding further investment opportunities in the country. Deputy Speaker, the establishment of the 100 billion rand infrastructure fund is another initiative of the 6th administration that is aimed at improving our fixed capital investment. The other pillars include interventions to ease the cost of doing business, expanding the number of small businesses through the revitalization of our township and rural economies, as well as macroeconomic reform and increased competition. Some of the immediate interventions include exploring alternative options to lower the electricity prices and eliminate potential load shedding, increase efficiency and reduce port costs to improve South Africa's global trade. The Economic Regulation of Transport Bill, which will be presented to Cabinet soon, will also assist. A review of the basic fuel price is being considered as part of a broader review of administered prices. In the bid to boost tourism, 82 countries will now receive visa waivers as part of South Africa's visa regime waiver. A policy directive that will guide the licensing of broadband spectrum has been issued already. Trade measures to safeguard key agricultural and other sectors and protect local jobs will be introduced. Government's plan to revitalize industrial parks is in progress, and 3 new parks have already been launched in 2019. Also, a new special economic zone has been proposed for designation in Bujanala in Northwest Province. Government has adopted the Khawuleza district model that we're speaking about just now, which is beginning to play a crucial role in supporting local economic drivers at district level. Ultimately, this will lead to job creation. Deputy Speaker, in the advancement of our developmental mandate, steps are already being taken to improve the financial and operational sustainability of our SOEs, as well as improving governance challenges. The restructuring of SOEs is expected to bring the much-needed stability, enable the entities to recapitalize, and reduce the need for bailouts and guarantees from time to time from government. For example, the Special Appropriation Bill to provide additional financial support to ESCOM for the current and the next financial year was recently passed. This will assist in keeping ESCOM afloat while work is underway of restructuring ESCOM. With regards to the need to reduce the debt, government has identified several possible fiscal interventions to narrow the budget deficit in an environment of uncertain economic growth. Some of these measures include the expenditure reprioritization, implementation of austerity measures, curbing wastages, and reducing the wage bill. The road ahead in getting our economy to grow will not be an easy one, but our collective will to triumph is stronger and more resilient. I'm sure we'll turn the corner. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Louis.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker and Deputy President. Thank you for that fulsome reply. Deputy President, the President spoke in London on Monday at the FT Africa Summit, and he was asked about the plan introduced by your colleague, the Minister of Finance, a stimulus package to get the economy growing. And he said, and I quote, that he endorses every single one of the proposals made in that plan, including a bill on cutting red tape introduced by my colleague from the DA, Honorable Kruger. Now, there is a perception, Deputy President, that there is some disparity between you and the President on your agreement on the economic direction to take in our country. And so I thought I would give you this opportunity today to add your comment to the fulsome endorsement of the President to Minister Mbowene's plan, and ask whether you too would add your endorsement to the President's words, and whether you would give us some specific commitment for when the proposals made in that plan would be implemented. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm not aware of any differences in terms of opinion, in terms of the way we see the road ahead between myself and the President. The fact of the matter is all what you see, the discussion that you see around, emanating from the Minister of Finance. These discussions, first of all, are discussed in the ruling party, where I sit. And these discussions are also discussed in cabinet, where I sit. Now, what you see that has been out there in the public domain, it's a product of a collective discussion within the party. It's a product of a collective discussion within cabinet. So I'm not an individual, I work within a collective. So what you see there, it's a product of a collective. And I've reassured the country from time to time that I support the President what the president is talking about today in KZN, I've listened to the president and I support it. Because it's not the president's plan, it's the plan of the governing party. Thank you very much.
Honorable Buthelezi.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. In light of the recent rolling blackouts and the announcement by ESCOM of further maintenance that will be scheduled throughout the summer months and the effects and costs that this will have on the economy at large, which will affect the perception of our country and certainly does not instill investor confidence, does the President believe in the Finance Minister's plan, in particular to the unbundling of ESCOM and privatization of part of the ailing state entities, where that will ensure our country's protection on us of any future downgrade? Thank you.
Deputy President.
I do. I do believe in that process of restructuring ESCOM. So in short, I believe in that plan. Yes, I do.
Honorable Madlingosi.
Deputy President, rating agencies are not ideologically neutral. They are basic ideological script that they adhere to, which they use against governments. The most pressing needs in this country right now are for a rapid redistribution of wealth and opportunities. The rating agencies will not take kindly to that. Now, will your government do what is necessary to lift our people out of poverty, like the land expropriation without compensation? Or will you listen more to what the ratings have to say? Thank you.
Deputy President.
Well, rating agencies are external bodies.
Honorable Deputy President, just a moment. Honorable Mantashe, you are talking, and can you take your seat, please? Please settle down. Do settle down. Sir, Deputy President.
Well, rating agencies are external bodies that will assess you as a country and give their opinion. Unfortunately, those who want to invest money in this country will take those opinions very serious. So you can ignore the advice and the opinion of rating agencies at your own peril. But it's important to note them and respond. For instance, rating agencies spoke about our state-owned enterprises. It's a fact that our state-owned enterprises are not in a very stable condition. So we must respond to that, and we must keep track and make them better. They've complained about the rising debt, government debt, the money that we have borrowed. So we must respond to that. And the way to respond that is that we must cut our coat according to our size. That means we must slim down. We must make sure that we reprioritize, we curb wastages, and we look at all areas where we think we can bring down expenditure, respond to that problem. But again, for us to ensure that our economy is put on the right path, there are certain fundamental things that we must do. It's important to continue with our skills program. To continue with our education programs, ensure that we skill more and more of our people so that they can be absorbed in the economy. there's a correlation that has been found that where there's poverty, where poverty is high, unemployment is high, and educational outcomes are low.
Point of order.
What's your point of order?
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. On Rule 1428, a reply to a supplementary question is limited to 2 minutes. Now, we know we have 3 hours. We'll never get through all the questions if the Deputy President stick to one. Can you just rule on the rules, please? Thank you.
Honorable member, they say I must read you the rule. I don't do this usually because you should know the rules. The provisions of sub-rules 1, 2, 3, and 8 do not apply to questions to the Deputy President. Proceed, Honorable Member.
Thank you very much. So I'm trying to say, Honorable Madlingozi, that we must tackle our educational outcomes. We must forge ahead with our skills development program. We must tackle unemployment in order to tackle poverty. So those are issues that are on our radar screen as a country in order for us to get the economy on the right track. Thank you very much.
Honorable Tring.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy President, Honorable Deputy President, ratings agencies evaluate a country's economic and political environment to determine a respective credit rating which gives investors insight into the level of risk associated with investing in that particular country. Credit rating downgrades would make it more expensive for the government to borrow money, increase debt servicing costs, and cause the rand to depreciate, driving up inflation, and thereby also increasing our tax burden. With the current load shedding set to significantly damage the economic growth and a number of economic policy papers floating about from the finance ministers towards an economic strategy to the president's economic stimulus recovery plan to long-standing and sometimes forgotten national development plans, has the finance minister's economic recovery plan been accepted by all within the ruling party, including its alliances? And when can the citizens of South Africa hope to see the rollout of that plan?
Member.
Thank you.
Deputy President.
Well, the recovery plan, the Minister of Finance is doing the final touches. He has received a lot of inputs from the public. Where necessary, these inputs will be integrated, and the final strategy will be published. And I'm sure the minister have consulted far enough. And an economic strategy is not something that is cast in stone. It will always be improved as we go. But somewhere we should agree and say, this is what we agree upon, let's steam ahead. So that will happen. But when it comes to the current load shedding, I think we must, on behalf of government, apologize to all businesses, students that could not write, the inconvenience cost. We are looking at the problems that has affected ESCOM, and we want to assure South Africans that this problem will be attended to and will come back to normality. Of course, it must be stated that for the country to know that the capacity of our country that stood in yesteryears, that stood at 47,000 megawatts, that capacity has reduced to almost 35 megawatts. Because of the aging fleet, there are a number of units that are now out of operation because these fleets are old. These power stations, some of them are old. For instance, your Hendrina power station, out of 6 units that should be operational, functioning, only 2 units are working. The rest, they've reached their lifespan. That accounts for a number of power stations that are now old. We welcome the introduction of the integrated resource plan by the Minister of Mineral and Energy. We take it that is the right step in the right direction that will inform the energy mix for the future of this country. Of course, in the current situation, gradually, we must open up space, more and more space for independent power producers to augment the current shortages. And I'm sure the country will be stable. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. We now move to question 9, asked by Honorable Mishwe. Deputy President.
Thank you.
Sorry, before you proceed, I've been informed that Honorable Swart will take the supplementary question. Thanks. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Nation building and social cohesion are key pillars of social progress and inclusive economic prosperity. A nation bound by a deep sense of cohesiveness, patriotism, and national pride, it's built on the foundations of a shared purpose and common goals. It is a nation defined by a common set of positive moral norms and values that guide our actions, that guide our behaviors, our interactions in society. The moral regeneration movement remains a crucial platform to galvanize and mobilize our society to advance the promotion of positive values and ethical conduct in a manner that confronts deep-seated challenges of moral decay within our communities. Deputy Speaker, the sustained and heinous attack on women, it is a clear indication that our moral compass as a nation is dangerously out of tune with our common values of compassion, common values of care, of human dignity, and of Ubuntu. The inquiry about the funding of the moral regeneration movement is accompanied by the necessary reminder of ensuring that we effectively utilize such forums towards moral and ethical renewal and transformation of our society. This renewal also requires that all citizens, young and old, take on their rightful place and rightful roles in the war of redefining and reaffirming ourselves as moral beings, as citizens, in living out values that are compatible with our democratic South Africa. Currently, the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture is the only government department which provides financial support to the moral regeneration movement. The financial support is 12 million rands for 3 years. That means it's just over 4 million rand per annum. All support to the moral regeneration movement is towards shaping the moral fiber of our society, thereby contributing to nation building. A civil society-driven movement that is supported by government, the Moral Regeneration Movement has been able to achieve a number of successful milestones with greater support from the state and non-state role players. Some of the milestones that have been achieved includes the establishment of structures of moral regeneration movement in provinces, the development and adoption of the Charter of Positive Values by government and its social partners, mainstreaming of moral regeneration initiatives with respect to people in conflict with the law in partnership with the Department of Correctional Services, honoring domestic workers for their role as pillars of homes, families, and within society. The Charter of Election Ethics, focusing on values and ethics of general elections by voters, those voted for, and those administering elections. Anti-femicide campaign in partnership with the Department of Sports and Arts and Culture, South African Police Service, Department of Social Development, and the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, focusing on community engagement with respect to measures that can be taken to address femicide and child abuse. As government will continue to support the work of the Moral Regeneration Movement, including addressing some of the capacity constraints that the board has raised during our interactions. We've also agreed on structured collaboration with key national departments, provinces, and municipalities to ensure a broad-based, multi-stakeholder participation in national moral regeneration program. This will require the existence of vibrant moral regeneration movement structures at local levels to bring communities together to promote moral renewal, ethical conduct, and cohesive communities. It is the responsibility of all South Africans, particularly all of us seated here, to be agents of the work that is being led by the Moral Regeneration Movement and other similar organizations. The Charter of Positive Values must feature prominently in the program of action of government, including in our schools and in all public facilities. To further on this work, next month, my office will, in partnership with the National Department of Sports and Culture and the Moral Regeneration Movement, will convene a national consultative session to evaluate the work of the Moral Regeneration Movement. More is needed from all of us as social partners to step up in our nation-building efforts. In this regard, we engage the private sector to solicit increased financial contribution and participation in this nation-building effort. We need to wage a war on violence that threatens to undo the gains that we have made towards ensuring the safety of women, youth, and all those who live and work in our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Swart.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Thank you, Deputy President, for your response. Now, it is very clear from your response that there is insufficient funding and insufficient capacity for the moral regeneration movement. And this is at a time when high levels of drug and alcohol abuse, horrendous murders and rapes, fraud and corruption, and the abuse of women and children that you referred to. While the ACDP appreciates that other partners contribute to the movement and it is civil society driven, it is clear, as you indicated, that far more needs to be done, and everyone in this House and every citizen needs to accept responsibility for moral regeneration and to restore the country's moral foundation. And there's a desperate need for this, as you indicated, as evidenced by the recently expressed outrage against gender-based violence. Now, given this and the insufficient funding and capacity, and the fact, Deputy President, that you indicated you would be meeting with the moral regeneration movement, would you not agree that it is important to broaden the movement to reach and influence, and to influence other NGOs and to incorporate churches that in particular can play a key role in strengthening the moral fabric of our nation and make South Africa a better place for all of us to live in? And we also believe from the ACDP side that the proposed comprehensive sexuality education to young children may undermine healthy moral values. But just on the issue of churches involving faith-based organizations, I'd like to hear your comments. Thank you, Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. I think I concur with the honorable member on the point that we should broaden our scope and participation. Of course, we're looking more and more on business, because we're looking at financial contribution to do all these activities. Of course, churches, as custodians of moral values, will be central. NGOs, I think all of us, we must make this a societal enterprise. All of us must stand up. Of course, the structures that will be coordinated through the MRM might not be sufficient. We need to galvanize and mobilize society so that we build this nation. Some of the things that were happening in the past few days were appalling, were regrettable. It's an indication of a nation that is regressing, which all of us must be concerned about. So we're going to do enough. We're very encouraged about the comments and the debate that was held in this House and all your speeches about gender-based violence. I think the country has heard, if we can continue from time to time as this House to focus on such topics that affects the moral compass of this country, it will be very helpful to take this country forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Chwaku.
Thank you very much, the Deputy Speaker. Deputy President, there is a prevailing sense in the society that the country has lost its moral compass, and that we have allowed ourselves to be corrupted by the love of man, attained often through illicit means, and that we occupy positions in government for only selfish reasons. Do you think that the fact that the president of the country was financed by big capital to ascend to his current position takes us back a mile in terms of ensuring that those who lead us do so with utmost integrity? Thank you very much.
Deputy President.
Well, I will agree with you that as a country, there are indications, there are signs that our nation-building effort is being threatened, especially if you look at this violent service delivery protest, if you look at this gender-based violence, our women and children, they feel threatened in a society that has just attained its freedom. That should worry us. That should worry us. We must do everything in our power to ensure that we avoid moral decay. We must do everything in our power to avoid a reversal of the gains that we've made since 1994 as a country. Of course, it's not easy. A country that is free, it's open up to a number of threats along the way. But united as a country, we can stand firm and we can deepen our democracy and ensure that everyone who lives in this country feels free, enjoys the freedoms that have been, that are enshrined in our Constitution. The matter of the President, the finances that he has been supported with, that is a matter of the ANC, because he was contesting as the president of the ANC. So it's a matter of the ANC. Thank you very much. But the president stood here and answered this question, that those who donated the money did nothing wrong. It's a clear donation. There's no element of corruption in between. The money was not stolen. It was donated. It was donated. But the ANC itself, as the ruling party, which the president represents, must define its own policies about fundraising, contesting for positions. That the ANC will do. Thank you very much.
Honorable N.S. Buthelezi.
Sorry, the Deputy Speaker, can I raise on a point of order?
What's the point of order?
I think that my question is not answered properly.
No, honorable member. No. Honorable member, it's not your call. It's not your call to do that. Honorable member, take your seat. No, no. You can't have a second bite, one bite. Ernest Shange? Yeah, go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy President, what initiatives has the Moral Regeneration Movement taken to contribute in addressing the issue of violence against women and children as part of restoring the moral fiber of our society? Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy President?
Well, it is quite clear that firstly, we need to structure ourselves very well as the Moral Regeneration Movement. We must expand our scope, include a number of NGOs, churches, but at the center of structuring ourselves, we must be able to harness the necessary capacity to mobilize society. Because this is a human action. This is about the mindset of a nation. The only way, the only tool that we have is to ensure that we've got enough legislative framework to protect women, to protect children. But again, you can't rely on a system. You must mobilize, you must talk to your society. So the moral regeneration movement requires a lot of voices to communicate a message. That is why I'm saying I was very happy when this House debated gender-based violence, because there came a number of voices talking about one matter. In that way, if we can replicate ourselves in society, mobilize our people, ensure that women are respected, you'll understand exactly where this matter stems from. This matter stems from the way girl children are treated right at home. Right at home, as long as we can understand that a girl child is the same as a boy child, no difference, they must be treated the same, they must be given equal opportunities. If society can understand that these children are the same, they must be treated the same. We must also deal with some of our stereotypes as a nation. There are certain stereotypes that girl children must do this, boy children must do this. We must stand up against those stereotypes because down the line, they become a problem. They become a problem in every sector of our life. Women are being segregated. It stems from the household where they grew up. So as a society, we must mobilize ourselves and fight these stereotypes and see women as equals in whatever endeavors in our life. Women are equal human beings. Thank you very much.
Honorable Majosi.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The Honorable Deputy President. Firstly, can we actually explain what is the Moral Regeneration Movement? Because it's an initiative that networks people for moral regeneration. You can't network people as a movement. You must actually touch people's lives. You must actually be there on the ground and touch people's lives in order for you to bring back the moral regeneration. Systematic corruption by your very own comrades who are supposed to be leaders in society and who have sworn to obey the law and their oath of office simply don't care to break the law, and it has sent a clear message to South Africans that it is okay to do so. It has become okay to steal public funds money. It is okay to create a generation of tenderpreneurs instead of entrepreneurs. Why should any department or this government pay for any movement, so you call it, that does not move us into moral regeneration, but move us into a furthermore moral decay? Thank you.
Honorable
Thank you very much.
President.
Well, I didn't hear the question, but I will try and... it was a statement. But the statement seeks to say, the moral regeneration movement is not able to mobilize society, to mobilize people, shortly saying it does not have the necessary capacity to do its work. And we've explained ourselves that the work of the moral regeneration movement belongs to all of us. We can't take this very important nation-building instrument and leave it to a movement, a moral regeneration movement, and we become spectators ourselves. You must understand that to change and to foster a culture of good moral values needs you, needs your friend next to you, needs all of us as a country. Now, this is just a catalyst to mobilize, to ensure that everyone becomes part. Standing here, I'm speaking on behalf of the moral regeneration movement. I'm mobilizing you to stand up and fight for positive values. All that seeks to take us back, we must fight it, wherever we are. Thank you very much.
Honorable members, we move to question 10, asked by Honorable Longo. Is that correct? Okay. Honorable Hlongo.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Proceed, Deputy President.
Honorable Speaker, we fully agree with the statement raised by the member that we have more young women graduates from our institutions of higher learning, but few of them are being absorbed into the labor force. According to the Council of Higher Education's vital stats, 59,487 women graduates with degrees from public universities in 2017 have graduated, compared to 36,627 men. A similar trend is evident considering students who graduated with diplomas and certificate qualifications. Yet, women remain the most affected by unemployment in comparison to men. And this has consistently been shown by the quarterly labor survey conducted by Stats SA since 2011. This is a serious concern. The systematic exclusion of women and workplace discriminatory practices, which are rooted in patriarchal culture, social systems of male dominance, and gender stereotypes that undermine the role and standing of women in society. These social norms and gender stereotypes tend to be replicated in recruitment and selection processes for employment. In a non-racial, non-sexist, democratic, and equal society, this injustice cannot be allowed to continue. As part of the broader social transformation agenda, the empowerment of women across all facets of life experience is meant to eliminate all structural and social barriers that prevent women from accessing equal opportunities as men, including employment opportunities. There is no doubt that transforming the world of work for women and ensuring their inclusion into economic growth and mainstream economic activities requires the elimination of discriminatory laws, policies, practices, and social norms. To achieve this, there should be a concerted effort to implement legislative and policy interventions to address women discrimination and advance gender equality. Since 1994, government adopted different equality and other empowering laws, including policies and charters which have quotas and targets for equity. For instance, among others, we now have the Employment Equity Act of 1998 and its amendments, the Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment Act of 2003 and its amendments. South Africa has also adopted legislative directive to embrace a new and broader agenda for equal employment opportunities for women in an attempt to improve women's standing in the workplace. The Employment Equity Act has been further amended to include the principle of equal pay for equal value of equal work in order to bridge the wage gap between men and women. If implemented correctly, these anti-discriminatory directives will allow women to have a chance to enter the workplace in an equal manner, not only as a form of empowerment for women, but also to contribute equally to economic growth and capacity building within the country. consequently giving women an equal opportunities that would enhance their social and economic standing. Relevant constitutional institutions are working tirelessly to ensure that women are represented in various facets of life, including educational institutions and the labor market. The Commission for Gender Equality plays a crucial role to monitor and evaluate policies and practices of organizations and institutions, both in the public and private sector, across society to promote gender equality. From time to time, the Commission makes recommendations aimed at further advancing gender equality in our society. Another important intervention is through the Commission for Employment Equity, which monitors and intervenes to address disparities in the labor market. The Commission's recently released the 19th annual report, which highlighted the need to increase the employment and representation of women. It is also looking deeply at the issue of workplace targets to employers. Indications are that although progress is slow, these efforts and all these legislative frameworks that are put in place, all these efforts are starting to bear some positive fruits. For instance, the report of the Commission for Employment Equity shows that the representation of women in top management positions has increased from 13.7% from 2002 to 23.5% in 2018. A significant improvement. Representation of women in senior management positions increased from 21.6% in 2002 to 34.5% in 2018. Government is a key contributor to this positive trend, as evident in the Employment Equity Report for the year 2018. Women are becoming increasingly represented in management positions within government, with 33% occupying top management positions in government and 39% occupying senior management positions. We need to see these similar trends in the private sector. The private sector must implement targeted training, recruitment, and mentorship programs that create pathways for women to enter the labor market and gain promotions to leadership positions within their companies. We have an obligation to target the inequalities and gaps related to labor force participation by women. We call on all employers across all sectors in the country to intensify efforts to engender equality in our society. As a country, let us continue in our efforts of educating our people, more emphasis on women, training and skilling our people, more emphasis be placed on women, especially young ones, to respond to the new opportunities in the changing world of work. Thank you very much, Speaker. Deputy Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Hlongo.
Ngiyabonga, Deputy Speaker. And also thank you, Deputy President, for the answer. With the Employment Equity Act of 1998 in place, we are still faced with a wage gap between white women and black women, especially in the private sector. Ngisese lapho futhi, what is the government doing to end this? And again, Deputy President, how is the government going to lobby for youth opportunities, interns and business opportunities with the public and private sector to close gaps of unemployment amongst the youth of the country? Thank you.
Deputy President. Well, your last question, to close the gap, as government, we must continue to improve our education outcomes to ensure that our young people are at school, they acquire the necessary qualifications, they acquire the necessary skills so that their chances of being absorbed in the labor force are improved. Of course, as government, we've done our part. As you can see by the statistics that I've read, that more and more women have gained promotions. They are now in senior positions in government. We are almost now standing at 39%, which is a very remarkable improvement. The private sector is lagging behind. And there is an act in place that compels all of us to work towards equity. So somewhere it is the responsibility of this House when you do your oversight, because you cannot just do your oversight to government. I'm sure you also visit companies. One of the things that you must look at is whether they comply in terms of the Employment Equity Act. The Act also allows for people with disability. A certain quota should be absorbed in the labor force. So it is our responsibility to ensure that we encourage the public sector to also improve in this sector. Now, in terms of the law that we have passed as the House, there should be no disparity in terms of salaries for people doing the same work, not unless there's a difference in terms of the job description. But if the job description is the same, the law compels that these people must earn the same salary. I'm aware that that is still happening, but not in government. In government, when we advertise a post, if we're looking for a chief director, the chief director will earn a certain amount of money, whether he's a male, whether he's a female, because the post will stipulate the salary, but we don't advertise a post in government and say we're looking for a woman. No. We must look, as people are being interviewed and all that, at certain point, preference is given to a woman. But as you advertise the post, you are opening yourself, you are inviting everyone to apply. But accordingly, whoever gets appointed as a chief director, as a director, irregardless of him being a man or a woman, they will earn the same salary. Thank you very much.
Honorable Mpiti.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Honorable Deputy President, after the appointment of cabinet shortly after the election, the cabinet was hailed for being a gender-equal cabinet, boasting a 50-50 gender split. Our constitution states that cabinet consists of the president and the deputy president, which means there is no 50-50 gender split, as previously celebrated by the president. When you consider this, Deputy President, are you prepared to step aside to achieve a 50-50 gender split, which is the immediate step that needs to be taken to correct the disparities within cabinet? And also, are you prepared to follow the example set by David Makura in Gauteng by making sure that there was a 50-50 gender split within his own cabinet? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maybe next time. And I don't know why you choose me. You are not choosing Honorable Mantashe to step down and make way for a woman. Why choosing me? Well, it's a point noted that we are not 50-50. It's because of me and the President, because we are men. But ministers are 50-50. It's only the Deputy President and the President that are dislodging the 50-50. You have got a point. Maybe I'll consider to step down next time. Not now. Not now. Not now. Not now. Thank you.
Honorable members, can I request that we not attempt to shout down a question we don't like? Please, just be democratic. That's all I'm asking you to do, to be democratic. You expect the same thing yourself when you yourself are asking a question. You don't want to be screamed down, right? Agreed. Yeah. Honorable Sukers.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Minister, President, I'm sorry. Only 18% of women receive full pay during maternity leave. Nearly a third receive less than 50% of their pay, and a shocking 40% receive no compensation at all. Being aware of the salary ranges and required maternity provision allows people to receive the needed information in order to be paid fairly and equally. Would government consider requiring companies to release data on their male and female pay ratios to the public and thus create pressure to create fairer conditions? If not, Deputy President, what stands in the way of the government to do so? Thank you.
Deputy President.
I don't think there's any problem to release that data because as government, I don't think we've got anything to hide. That data can be released. I'll follow up that question to ensure that we release this. If we want certain people to act in a particular way, as government, we must lead the way ourselves. So there's nothing to hide. I'm not aware that women, when they go on maternity leave, they are getting paid for a certain number of days, certain number of days are not paid. I'm not aware of that. Probably it's something that we'll look at. Thank you very much.
Okay. Honorable, you want to have a second bite? Kanjani sis? No, please, ma'am.
No.
Hold on. Deputy President, she's going to ask you whether you are going to encourage the private sector to do so. You've answered that question.
Yes.
But I want you to repeat and add to your answer.
Yes, the Deputy Speaker is helping me. Well, they will encourage the private sector to do so as government. Of course, it's also our responsibility as Parliament to encourage the private sector to release that data. But as government, will lead the way. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Honorable Mahau.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Deputy President, Your response is not convincing at all in terms of improvement on statistics. It cannot be right or allowed, whereby the act was passed in 1998. Then the percentage now was standing at 23.5. You cite it as an improvement. What about the 72.5%? If there is no recourse for non-implementers, and the word encourage, you can go out and encourage, which means if they don't want to implement the Employment Equity Act, it will never be implemented. So what are the recourses for those that are not implementing what is entailed in the Act? Thank you.
Deputy President.
Well, I've only noted the progress that has been made since 2002 to 2018. And I'm saying within that time frame, there has been an improvement, which is remarkable, and we commend that improvement. Of course, it's not satisfactory. We're not there yet. As government, we must improve, and we're also calling for the private sector, which is lagging behind, to also catch up. I'm aware that we have not reached the acceptable level in terms of equity, but there's progress. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next question is question 11, asked by Honorable Zungula. Deputy President.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The development and promotion of productive economic activities in township and rural villages are at the heart of government's efforts to advance economic inclusion and local empowerment and job creation. We need to transform our townships and villages from traditionally being apartheid-designed source of cheap labor and consumption into driving productive investment in economic hubs. Real and meaningful transformation will occur when enterprise development and participation opportunities are deliberately created to benefit local communities living in these townships and villages. In order to reverse the legacy of apartheid space economy, government has a responsibility to implement a set of policies and regulatory interventions to direct infrastructure investment, as well as financial, technical, and market access facilitation that benefits enterprises that are located in townships and villages. There is no doubt that economic activities in townships and rural areas should be supported by the effective implementation of regulations and municipal bylaws consistent with our constitutional and legal framework. All businesses, whether local or foreign-owned, must be subjected to applicable regulations and bylaws. Effective economic regulation in township and rural areas will assist in curbing and minimizing the problem of counterfeit goods that are sold in our country through illegal businesses. More importantly, the impact of regulation must result in a fair and competitive environment for enterprises that are operating in our township and villages, so that we prevent the abuse of dominance by few monopolies. We have to find ways to open up markets so that new enterprises can be able to compete fairly. The Competition Amendment Act, promulgated this year, focuses on opening markets where concentration and the behavior of dominant firm is harmful to the creation of jobs and the growth of small and medium businesses in all sectors across our economy. Although it is imperative to regulate, the microeconomy regulations alone is not a total solution to address the challenges of economic exclusion and structural barriers of entry into the mainstream economy for township and rural enterprises. Regulations must be accompanied by extensive enterprise development programs that are supported by government and the private sector to develop skills and integrate small businesses in township and villages into major procurement value chains in government and the private sector markets. With this realization, government is implementing various programs and targeted policies to intervene so that it stimulates and supports the development of township and rural enterprises. Implementing a special dispensation or set-asides in the awarding of medium and long-term contract to small businesses, cooperatives, as well as township and village enterprises to allow for a period of incubation and other support to help reduce failure rate is one important thing that we must do. Establishing a township and a village economy fund to support the productive activities and the development of industrial park, business centers, and incubation centers in those areas, it's another thing that government must pursue. Government must also pursue formalizing township and village-based enterprises through an active campaign by provincial and local government that will promote the benefits of formalization. Addressing also illegal trading through better regulations and implementation of bylaws by municipalities. Increasing the incubation network in rural areas and township as part of government's commitment to grow rural and township enterprises. We must continue to invest in key infrastructure and technology innovations to facilitate the ease of doing business in our township and rural villages. Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy President. Is there a follow-up question from the Honourable Zungula?
Thank you, Chairperson. Mr. Deputy President, the township and villages comprise of the most poor, marginalized, and unemployed people in the country. With our poor education system, the people in these areas are unable to have access to economic opportunities, particularly in the formal economy. Because of the lack of economic participation, social ills and a heavy reliance on social grants becomes the order of the day. Their only hope becomes the informal economy, which has been expropriated from them. The informal economy all over the continent is reserved for the locals in any country. Countries with the fastest growing economies in Africa have specific legislation to protect microeconomy for its citizens. For example, Ghana has an 8.8% GDP growth in 2019. For Ethiopia, it is 7.7%. And both these countries have, the microeconomy is reserved for its citizens. Therefore, the question to you is that with big businesses such as Pick and Pay, YouSave, ShopRite, that have now ventured into the township economy that is already dominated by foreign nationals, how are the locals going to benefit from the township economy if there is no legislation to protect them? Thank you.
The Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Well, like we've said, is that one very important thing that must happen. First of all, there should be legislation that will enforce registration of any business that is happening in the township or the village. There should be bylaws that are promulgated by all our municipalities around small businesses that are trading in the jurisdiction of a municipality. That will give us certainty, first of all, of who is doing business in the municipality, in the township. Now, when you know who is doing business in the township, in the municipality, we are then able to register all those businesses, because some of these businesses, they require support from government on how to run their businesses. That is why we speak of incubation. Some business must be supported to grow. Now, the second step, depending on what type of businesses, government must assist to find markets, because government itself, it's a market. It's a market. We are using bricks every day to build houses. We are feeding our children. We are feeding our patients. We are buying goods and services on a daily basis as government. So we can stand as the first market that can be available to small, medium enterprises, as long as they are registered and supported. But of course, the Competition Act will also allow government, provinces and municipalities to deal with monopoly. All the items that are being sold in a mall, in a township, a space must be deliberately opened for small, medium enterprises also to sell their goods, whether it's vegetables. ShopRite in a township must be able to buy vegetables as long as these vegetables will meet the certain standard. Of course, people must eat food that is acceptable. Therefore, it is the role of government to ensure that these SMMEs produce products that are up to standard, that they can be certified and be consumed in the market. So that is our role. But the first fundamental question that must be addressed is that who is trading? Who is this SMME? Where? Now, you will then be in a position to support that SMME through infrastructure if there is an industrial park in that township or that village. Now, government is going to dedicate itself, its energy and time to support small, medium enterprises in our township, in our villages. That is why, as government, we have created a department entirely to focus on small businesses. There's a Minister of Small Businesses to support, and we are thinking of creating a fund that will support these small and medium enterprises. They must trade. We've got an act that would discourage monopoly, will open space for these small, medium enterprises also to trade. Thank you very much.
The next follow-up question is to be asked by the Honorable Telezi.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson. Deputy President, nsuku zonke osomabhizinisi abancane bayawa ngenxa yokungatholi kwesekeleka kulahleka imisebenzi abantu basemakhaya ikakhulukazi. This is not because of lack of business training, but the lack of a safety net to carry these businesses through their first, second year. Umbuzo uthi ngabe iphika mongameli yakweseka yini umbono wokukhuthaza umemi basekhaya umasipala ukuba bashaya imtheshwanyana ezolekela osomabhizinisi abancane ukuze bakwazi ukusimama ikakhulukazi eminyakeni yabokuqala nowesibili nowesithathu to ensure that they break even and make profit. For example, if electricity is cited as a financial risk for a particular small medium business viability, then the local municipality must intervene and assist that particular SMEs with the electricity subsidy so that this business takes off. Thank you.
Ngiyabonga. Ngithanda ukusho ukuthi siyakusekela ukuxhaswa kwamabhizinisi amancane, somabhizinisi abasakhula. Kungako njengohulumeni senze le department yaka small business. Manje ke uminister uzosebenza nama province. Uzawusebenza nomasipala ukuthi loyo naloyo owenza ibusiness encane aka register bese uzawutholela indawo la azosebenza khona. Zikhona ke indawo ezikhona kuma township wethu lesi sizibiza ukuthi ama industrial park. Zizovuselelwa lezo ndawo lapho zikhona khona ukuthi bonke labo somabhizinisi abancane batholakale lapho, ngoba lapho bazawusizakala ngogesi, bazawusizakala ngamanzi. Manje ke uma thina siheha osomabhizinisi ngaphandle siye sibanikeze ama incentives ukuthi no, in this special economic zone there will be a special tariff for electricity, there will be a special tariff for water. Kuyafana ke nakulama somabhizinisi bethu abancane, kuyafanele ukuthi nabo sibanikeze special tariff uma ba located kuleso space esisibiza ukuthi industrial park ngaphansi komasipala othile. Ngakho ke ukusupportwa kwamosomabhizinisi abancane sizokwenza futhi sizawubeka imali ezoba supporta kuze sibalekele ukuthi bafeyile njalo. Kufuna balandelele kuvule neregister yabo sibabone futhi ukuthi bayakhula every day. Siphinde sibavulele ne-market njengoba every time njengo government kunama goods and services esiwathengayo mihla le sizawathenga ke kulabo somabhizinisi bethu abasakhula, kodwa lawo ma goods and services kuzofanele amite the required standard. Ngiyabonga.
The next follow-up question is to be asked by the Honorable Chaisa.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair. Deputy President, the exploitation of South Africans by the foreign businesses in these rural areas and townships is a great concern. And the inspectors from the Labour Department are not always paying visits to these businesses. And these people, the employees from these businesses in the rural and township areas are always losing the cases when they go to CCMA. This is happening very much now in rural areas and in townships. So what is your take, Mr. President, in order to cap this so that our people can get assistance? Thank you very much.
Honorable Deputy President, I hope you got the question towards the end.
I haven't.
Honorable Chaisa, can you repeat the question,
I tried
please?
very hard to listen.
Yeah.
I got lost somewhere.
Yeah, I've noticed that, Honorable Deputy President. I also didn't get the question.
Deputy President, Mr. Deputy President, I mentioned all these challenges. Then the question is, what is your take? What is your comment? What is it that you can do to assist these people? who are suffering from this. As I mentioned, perhaps I can start afresh and mention these challenges.
Okay.
You want me to do so?
Honourable Deputy President, are you in a position now to respond?
Yes.
Thank you,
I'll
Honourable
respond.
Chaisa. You may take your seat. Continue, Honourable Deputy President.
No, thank you very much. I think the response to this question, the first thing that must happen in a municipal space, in a province, is that any small business that is operating there must be registered, must be known. Now, if that business is known, that business can apply for support, either financially, in terms of infrastructure that must be built in that area, in terms of business support, incubation. There are a number of support mechanisms that are there that can be offered to a small business. But the fact of the matter is that that business must be registered. So we'll take a campaign to ensure that every business that is operating legally. And that person who's operating that business is here in this country legally. That is fundamental to do it. But beyond that, it is our responsibility as government to support these small businesses and ensure that whatever goods they are producing, they find a market. We are going to work with all these small businesses in all the provinces to find markets for the products that they are producing. And I've said that government presents itself as one market that is available to buy these goods and services from these SMMEs. But one thing that we must eliminate is SMMEs that are selling goods that are not of good quality, goods that have expired, that are harmful to consumers. That is not going to be allowed. You will have realized in a number of provinces, premiers taking this campaign, visiting businesses, and they found some of these expired goods that are being sold to our people. So we are going to protect our consumers from these businesses as much as we want to support these businesses to be in business. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy President. The last follow-up question will be asked by the Honourable Mbele.
Ngiyabonga Sihlalo. Sekela Mongameli, many studies have shown that the competitive advantage that's enjoyed by foreign national-owned retail micro-enterprises is based on them leveraging social networks. And through those, they benefit from cheaper labor, from bulk buying for discount purchases and economies of scale, as well as peer microfinancing within that social network. And in addition, many of these foreign national-owned spaza shops invest much larger capital outlays in the enterprises. So, umbuzo wami uthi, kunokuthi kuvalwe amathuba, kuvalwe iskala in the economy through regulation, which would actually harm consumer interests because they benefit from cheaper goods. What will your government do differently to invest in business skills training, to facilitate microcredits? Because the new fund you mentioned would not, at the face of it, be different from CFA, for example.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Your time has now expired. Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you very much. In our attempt to try and assist small businesses, we should not move away from the legal prescripts. Everything that we must do it within the acceptable legal frameworks. you will understand that for you to open a business, your business must be registered, must be known, so that inspectors from time to time can come and check your business. Whether it's a liquor outlet, you will be given some trading hours, and there will be inspectors that will come and inspect whether you're still trading according to the requirements and the agreement of your license. So it's important that much as we want to see SMMEs thriving in their numbers, we must not move away from the legislative framework. I think that has created a problem. A number of businesses that are operating now, they are not registered. First of all, we must register them, and government is ready to support these businesses financially, in terms of their management skills, to run a business so that we avoid the high failure rate of these small businesses. Now, in the process, we are saying government presents itself as a market, but we're also mindful that government is a bad payer. Government is not paying these SMMEs on time. We are going to stand up and ensure that these SMMEs are paid on time. Because it's one thing to talk about economic growth. It's another thing when the society is standing up, working hard, putting their bit in trying to grow the economy, and they then get discouraged by the very same government that is encouraging them to grow the economy. So there are certain things that we must do right as government in order to allow for economic growth. One space is that we must attend to. We must pay our service providers on time so that we reduce the failure rate. Because if you pay them after 90 days, 100 days, they can't survive. They will close shops. Now, the acceptable time to pay these SMMEs, it's less than 30 days. I don't understand why we must stay for a long time not paying a service provider if that service has been provided. I don't understand. So I'm trying to say, everything that we're going to do, first of all, we must eliminate illegal trading because it comes with a lot of problems. We are trading with counterfeit goods, goods that have expired. That presents a problem in a community. So the best thing that we must do as government, regulate that environment. But beyond regulating, support the SMMEs. Because by supporting these SMMEs, you are supporting your economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy President. Honourable members, we now get to question number 12 that was asked by the Honourable M.G. Mashlaule to the Deputy President. The Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Access to land for productive economic activities and social development remains a priority for government in addressing unemployment, poverty, and deprivation. There is a moral obligation on the side of government to reverse the legacies of dispossession and skewed patterns of land ownership, which continue to engender and deepen inequalities in the distribution of wealth in our society. To accelerate land reform, government has prioritized intervention measures that will unlock land for redistribution to support agricultural production, human settlement, and industrial development. Cabinet has approved the release of state-owned land for the development of priority human settlement projects throughout the country, especially in urban and peri-urban spaces, to deal with the settlement congestion and the rising demand for development, land, and service delivery infrastructure in our metropolitan areas. More importantly, government land release for integrated and sustainable human settlement will have to address the demand for the development of industries, business support infrastructure in close proximity to where our people live. The process for the identification, profiling, and land use assessment of available state-owned land has been concluded. The policy setting out beneficiary selection and allocation criteria is currently being reviewed and enhanced to ensure that fairness, equity, and transparency in the redistribution process is carried out in a fair manner. This policy will be finalized by the end of November this year. As we have mentioned before in this August House, we are continuing to engage with farmers, business, and institutions wishing to donate land to advance land reform objective. In this regard, government is finalizing the land donation policy to guide the process and transactions involving land donation by companies and non-state institutions. This policy will be concluded also by the end of November. Through the work of the Land Claim Commission, we're expediting the finalization of our outstanding claims on government-owned land to ensure that it's available for redistribution. We have taken a decision that the land that is owned by government that has been claimed will be released free of charge. The success of our land reform program depends on the quality and effectiveness of our post-settlement support to beneficiaries of land reform. We must ensure that restituted and redistributed land is put under optimal production. In partnership with traditional leaders, we must ensure that communal land is effectively utilized to expand the country's productive capabilities. As part of our targeted post-settlement initiative, government has prioritized mechanization support, irrigation infrastructure, extension advisory services, the provision of inputs such as seeds, fertilizers, and the facilitation of access to domestic and export markets. To improve production support, an integrated producer support policy has been finalized to streamline the delivery of financial and non-financial support across various segments of producers. This model and policy will allow for better coordination and alignment of government efforts and investment decisions to grow and expand our agricultural sector. In this model, provision is also made to support farmers with innovative farming technologies and financial instruments to mitigate the risk posed by natural disasters and climate change. The Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development has several key interventions both at provincial and national level, aimed at supporting farmers and unlocking the growth potential of the agricultural sector. Key amongst these interventions are the Comprehensive Agricultural Support Program, Ilima Litsima Program, which aim to provide post-settlement support to targeted beneficiaries of land reform. In terms of access to markets, government is committed to assisting producers especially emerging black farmers, to benefit from the existing trade agreements and protocols that South Africa is a signatory to. These include the South African Development Community and the European Union's Economic Partnership Agreement, the BRICS, as well as agreements in the United States of America, the Middle East, and Asia. The overarching goal of these initiatives is to ensure adequate utilization of our land at our disposal and the removal of barriers to entry into agricultural sector by previously disadvantaged communities, especially young and emerging farmers. In this way, we will contribute toward the attainment of the National Development Plan goal of ending hunger and poverty by 2030. I thank you, Chair.
Is there a follow-up from the Honourable Mashlaule?
Thank you, Honourable House Chair. Deputy President, our agricultural sector is very crucial to our economy as it supports other sectors in the whole value chain, including what you call food processing, retail, and clothing and textile. What is our government doing to ensure that emerging farmers gain access to these lucrative markets? And what is government doing to make sure that black people in general gain greater ownership and control to this whole value chain as it stands, because it is belonging to the few monopolies that are happening to be white? Thank you.
Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you very much. Well, it starts from the ownership of land. Now, as we redistribute land, as we restitute land, that comes with a post-settlement support. That will be a grant that will assist the farmer to produce, to till the land. Now, beyond tilling the land, the farmer will produce, and those products that are produced, the farmer needs to be assisted to find a market. Already, like I've said, South Africa has entered into a number of agreements, trade agreements. We need to get our farmers to play their part, to produce, to export, and trade. But the difficulty that our farmers have is that they lack financial support, and they are not connected in those export networks. As government, we should assist them to gain the necessary platforms that will allow them to export their produce. And that we have made provision for. Now, as we are speaking, we've assisted a lot of farmers through the stimulus package to produce. Those who are doing stock farming, they are exporting meat. Production in terms of crop farming has been hampered by the rainfall. We are confident that beyond this period, as summer begins, we're ready to support those farmers to till the land and ready to support them to export their products. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Paulson.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Deputy President. Deputy President, you tell a good story, but the reality is something very different. One of the major failures of land reform is that even the little land that gets distributed to blacks ends up in the hands of MK veterans or others aligned to the ANC. And you know, the MK veterans, very few of them even know a pitchfork from an AK-47. The gatekeeping and patronage networks at play are inimical to any prospect of a successful land reform program. Can you commit today that you will use your authority to make public a complete database of all the beneficiaries of proactive land acquisition strategy, indicating which beneficiaries are using land in a productive manner, what support they have received from government, and how many of them are servicing their lease agreements? Thank you very much.
Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much. Everything that we're going to do as the Interministerial Committee will be transparent. The criteria to redistribute land will be transparent. Why are we selecting certain people that will benefit from that land release? It will be transparent. And we are very happy to release a register of all people that have benefited from our land reform process since 1994. We've made progress, not enough to celebrate about. That is why we discussed this matter here to say, probably to fast-track our land restitution program, we must look at the option of expropriating land without compensation, which is one instrument of pursuing land reform. But we must say here that as government, we are going to proceed with restitution. With the amount budgeted for in this current financial year, we're going to continue to procure land and restitute it to those who have claimed it until you resolve the question here about Section 25 of the Constitution. But in the meantime, government will proceed to restitute land with the available resources that we have. We don't have enough, but we are going to continue to restitute land. On top of that, government is going to redistribute land. There's land that has been claimed that it's in the hands of government. I've said here that that land is going to be released free of charge. If I can tell you, we've got 261 claims of land parcels that have been made, and those land parcels belong to government. And we're in a process of releasing all these 261 land parcels. Now, on top of that, we've assessed 278 land parcels that are in the hands of government that we are aiming to redistribute. This, remember, it's not land that has been claimed. It's land that we have deliberately assessed as government to fast-track our redistribution process. Now, we are done with the assessment of those land parcels, and we know what these land parcels are capable of, whether you can grow crops, whether you can put livestock. So as we redistribute these land parcels, it will come with an assessment report that will help the farmer about the status of that land, so that you know exactly that this land, you can grow this kind of a crop, you can keep livestock. We are not just giving you land because we want you to be productive on that piece of land. So our process of redistribution, restitution, it's well on track. Well on track. in a very short space of time, all the ministers in the IMC will be out there to hand over these parcels before the end of the year. Thank you very much.
The next follow-up question is to be asked by the Honourable Breed.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair. Honourable Deputy President, according to the former Department of Land Reform, almost 90% of land reform projects have failed. This means that many of the productive farms that were transferred are now unproductive, and therefore jobs have been lost and have been shed, and that also means less food is being produced. How will you ensure economic stability and food security, as well as provide assurance to farmers, commercial and sustainable, amidst fast-tracking of land reform projects? I thank you.
Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you very much. We'll continue to fast-track our land reform program, but I've said here that we are currently looking at the farmer support program, post-settlement program, which is coordinated. Previously, yes, those who have been given land has been restituted to them, land has been redistributed them, they failed. They failed because of the lack of consistent support. Now, we are coming with an integrated support model that will be located at the district level. We are trying to follow this same model of a district. We think it's closer to the farmer, but that is where all our support is going to be located. Now, I've mentioned the type of support that we're going to give to each and individual farmer. Recently, I've visited farmers in the Northern Cape. Now, currently, we're supporting those farmers. We've realized the problems that are experienced by these farmers, the drought, their cattle dying. We immediately came up with interventions on the spot to supply fodder, to ensure that land is made available to the provincial government so that they can continue to plant fodder and increase their fodder bank to support these farmers. So we are going to continue. This is not a well-coordinated intervention, but we are going to locate the intervention at a district that will be permanent. Farmers will be supported on a permanent basis to produce. So we are coming up with a support model that will be permanent, that will be known by farmers. All farmers that are getting support from that center will be registered. Thank you very much.
The next follow-up question is to be asked by the Honourable Steyn.
Thank you, House Chairperson. Deputy President, the DA supports the efforts to release state land for land reform purposes. This is long overdue and something that we have been calling for. My concern, however, is with the second part of the question relating to economic participation in the agricultural sector. Are you aware of all the forensic as well as SIU investigations currently ongoing in the two departments, that's land reform and agriculture? This is because of irregularities or stealing regarding use of state funds that was budgeted towards farmer support. The SIU investigation into the Comprehensive Agricultural Support Program, forensic investigation into the Strengthening Relative Rights of Farm Workers Program, Recapitalization and Development Program, the 3.9 billion rand as announced by President Ramaphosa for blended finance was put on hold already in April this year. So the difficulty that our farmers have is the mismanagement of funds in the department.
Honourable Member, your time has
What
expired.
are you going to do about that?
Honourable Deputy President.
Well, we are going to try very hard, working close with the Department of Agriculture, with the Minister, to ensure that all the resources that are meant to support farmers, they eventually reach their destination. This is what we're going to do. We're going to visit each and every support platform where we're supporting farmers, the monies that we're supporting farmers, and we're going to visit these projects to see for ourselves whether the farmers have received the money. So we'll minimize wastages and the outflow of money through corrupt practices. Well, the investigations, they must continue. These were sanctioned by the President because there were complaints that were written to the President to say there's this and this and this happening, and we support those investigations. Whoever will be found guilty, I guess the law must take its course. But with the new farmer support model, we are going to try our best to insulate it from corrupt practices. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy President. Honourable Members, that concludes questions to the Deputy President. I would like to thank the Honourable Deputy President for his replies.
Thank you.
Honourable Members, the next item on the order paper is a motion in the name of the Chief Whip of the Majority Party. The Honourable Chief Whip.
Thank you, Honourable House Chairperson. I move that the House suspends Rule 139, subsection 1, which provides inter alia that questions to the Deputy President must be scheduled by the Programming Committee in accordance with Rule 210 for a question day once per month during session time, in order to conduct a second question session for the Deputy President on Tuesday, the 22nd of October 2019. I so move.
I now put the motion. Are there any objections? No objections. Agreed to. The last motion on the order paper is also in the name of the Chief Whip of the Majority Party. Honourable Deputy Chief Whip.
Thank you, Honourable House Chairperson. I move that the House notes that during the 2016-2017, the Executive Authority received a number of allegations, including allegations of financial misconduct leveled against the Secretary to Parliament, Mr. G.M. Mgidlana, who is also the accounting officer. On the 25th of May 2017, the Executive Authority requested the Audit Committee to promptly investigate the allegations, including the allegations of financial misconduct, as they are obliged to do by Section 67, subsection 2A of the Financial Management of Parliament and Provincial Legislature Act number 10 of 2009, FMPPLA. On the 9th of June 2017, the Secretary to Parliament was placed on a special leave in order to allow investigation of the matter by the Audit Committee. On the 27th of October 2017, the Audit Committee recommended that the disciplinary action be considered against the Secretary to Parliament. The Executive Authority instituted disciplinary proceedings in accordance with the applicable procedures as required by Section 67, subsection 2B of the FMPPLA. Disciplinary charges were served on the Secretary to Parliament on the 1st of February 2018, and hearing was scheduled to commence on the 12th of February 2018. The Secretary to Parliament was charged with 13 counts of serious misconduct And on the 30th of August 2019, a disciplinary hearing presided over by the external chairperson found him guilty on the following charges, namely that he was guilty of serious misconduct by accepting an ex gratia payment for himself and by recommending to the executive authority that certain employees listed in the charge sheet were also eligible for the ex gratia payment. 2, he was found guilty on serious misconduct by allowing his spouse to travel with him at Parliament's expense during the times and to the events listed in the charge sheet. 3, guilty of abusing the Parliamentary Protection Services driving function to provide driving services for a relative and his spouse in violation of the travel policy. 4, guilty of serious misconduct by failing to stop the Parliamentary Protection Services drivers from using blue lights and or sirens when providing driving services for him and on some occasions together with a relative. 5, guilty of serious misconduct for chairing a special bid adjudication committee. 6, guilty of serious misconduct by appointing a chief information officer in circumstances where she did not meet the minimum requirements for the position. And 7, guilty of misconduct for having used Parliament's corporate credit card on the dates and in respect of the amounts contained in the charge sheet in violation of the policy on corporate credit card. Further note that in light of the seriousness of the misconduct of the several key provisions of the FMPPLA that were contravened, the chairperson of the disciplinary hearing on the 30th of August 2019 recommended summary dismissal for the Secretary to Parliament. The House must accept the findings, that the House accepts the findings of the disciplinary hearing and the recommendation of the chairperson of the disciplinary hearing and resolves that the Secretary to Parliament be dismissed summarily and his contract of employment be terminated with immediate effect. I so move.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Chief Whip. I now put the motion. Are there any objections?
Day wants to make a declaration.
No, I'm still busy. There are no objections. However, I've been informed that there are requests for declarations of vote. In terms of Rule 108, Honourable Member Mshlongo, you must read the rules that when the presiding officer addresses the House, you must listen to what is going to follow. I do not need your interjections. It's uncalled for. In terms of Rule 108, I will now allow for one member of each political party wishing to make a declaration an opportunity to do so within the time allocation as determined by the Rules Committee, namely the ANC 7 minutes, the DA 5 minutes, the EFF 4 minutes, and all other parties 3 minutes. The Honourable Steenhuisen.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson. There is a time to come and there's a time to go. And sadly, the Secretary of Parliament's time to go was 3 years ago. The Secretary of Parliament is like the CEO of this organization. And the fact that this has been dragging on for almost 3 years has led to a loss of direction and strategic focus of the organization as uncertainty and instability around this important position has lingered. Now, Parliament has a duty to hold itself and its office bearers to a higher standard, particularly because this House is charged with holding the executive and organs of state accountable to it. That means that there is a higher duty to hold ourselves to a higher standard. We can't do this credibly if we don't take appropriate action timeously against office bearers of this Parliament in an effective way. Oversight and accountability can't be nice words that we put on the steps coming into the House if we're not prepared to practice them in everything that we do. That being said, there is a quote that says, "It's never too late to do the right thing," unquote. And this is the right thing for us to be doing as this House. And where I do think that the new Speaker and the new Executive Authority need to be commended and congratulated and supported by us voting for this today, is that it would have been very easy for this House just to let Mr. Mgidlana's contract come to an end, as it does in November this year, and to quietly let him slink off to another government sinecure in a cushy office somewhere. But the Speaker and the Executive Authority and Parliament is sending a very clear message out that we're not going to allow Mr. Mgidlana, given the serious gravity of the charges that he's been found guilty of, to slip off into the night into another cushy job, and that he is going to be dismissed by Parliament as a result of his action. What this does is sends the right message throughout the organization here in Parliament, that if you do wrong, you will be held accountable. So while it's taken a long time to get to where we are today, and this motion serving before us, it is the right motion, and it is the right thing for us to be doing. And hopefully, this organization can close this chapter and to start to heal itself and start to move forward to build a better Parliament of which we as members can all be proud, but most importantly, of which the people of South Africa can be proud. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Honourable Mente.
Thank you, House Chair. House Chair, we couldn't agree 100% more as the EFF. This has come far much later than we expected it to be. But in any case, it was expected that it can be delayed until his term comes to an end. This is in actual fact not a dismissal, but another golden handshake, because this person was charged more than 3 years ago, yet the finalization of the charges only came exactly at the end of his term, which doesn't make sense for us. And it's a very bad practice for Parliament. It borders on vetting processes of officials in the public sector, where minimum security standards are not binding, instead a mere recommendation. Mgidlana is going to crop up in one of the departments here because nothing will be binding for him to be recorded as the most corrupt thug who came to enrich himself, a self-seeking, selfish person who came to oppress the fellow black children in Parliament, the one who was only giving himself subsidies to educate himself, the one who was giving himself trips on the taxpayers' expense, the one who was not even giving proper salaries and standards to the workers of Parliament. Secretary to Parliament holds higher authority because he charges all that what Parliament is and employ the utmost discipline, ethics, and integrity. This should serve as a caution to the next panel, which is going to be interviewing a Secretary to Parliament, that the person must be vetted, it must not be a choice. Otherwise, we're going to harbor another thug that's going to come here and take money of taxpayers, money of Parliament for themselves. This motion must be noted as one where cadre deployment must never, ever, ever be utilized. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Honourable Singh.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. The serious allegations against Mr. Mgidlana and subsequent findings has caused embarrassment for all of us as an institution. Parliament is meant to work against corruption and abuse of power through oversight and formulation of legislation. Unfortunately, The findings of misconduct, abuse of power, and misuse of funds against a senior member of this institution does not reflect well on Parliament's public image. Honourable Chairperson, this is not the first time that we as Parliament have had to sanction the removal of a Secretary of Parliament. It's the second time. And there must never be a third time. And the reason lies in how some of these officials are appointed to their posts. And Honourable Mentor spoke about cadre deployment, and I want to agree. Some of the honourable members who were here in the 5th Parliament will know how this gentleman was protected by somebody in high office, sitting right behind me. When allegations were made against the Secretary of Parliament, not the particular chairperson, but sitting in the same seat, when allegations were made, particularly by Nahau, about some of the shenanigans that the Secretary of Parliament was involved in, it fell on deaf ears. But now the truth has prevailed, and they say the truth shall prevail. Therefore, we welcome the disciplinary inquiry. We welcome the fact that they have recommended that the Secretary to Parliament should be removed from office. It has come late, as Honourable Mentor said, but better late than never. But it also brings into question, Honourable Chairperson, the long delays to deal with such cases. Now, we know that due legal process has to be followed, but it's over 2 years that this gentleman has been receiving a salary and has been a drain on the fiscus. And if you look at the public service, there are many more cases such as this, where people have been suspended with full pay and the cases take a long time to finalize. I think we as Parliament have a responsibility and a duty to ensure that there is some way to shorten this process so these elements can be out of our system and not be a drain on us as a fiscus. Finally, Honourable Chairperson, I know that when the Secretary of Parliament is appointed, there's an interview committee which comprises the executive authority, and in the last instance, they used some expert. I believe the time has come when members of Parliament from different political parties, together with the executive authority and these experts, must form this panel. In that way, there can be a better view, and there will not be a chance for cadre deployment, hopefully, and we can get a person that we can trust and that will hold this institution in high esteem and regard. We support the motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Honourable Swart. And thank you for the correction, Honourable Singh.
Thank you, House Chair. House Chair, the ACDP supports the motion on the order paper, and it is crucial that Parliament, which manages and appropriates public finances, sets itself a much higher standard. We exercise oversight, and the question in Latin is quis custos custodiet, who guards the guards. So if we set in a certain standard, we must apply that same standard as well. And it is crucial that we need to ensure that taxpayers' funds are dealt with in a transparent, responsible, and accountable fashion. The other speakers have already alluded to the fact that the disciplinary processes took a long time. We in the ACDP agree. It is a shame that this process goes back to 2016, and that the legal process took almost 2 years to conclude. And it is an issue which is across the whole public sector. That is something that we do experience, these delays where public officials are suspended on full pay. And we're now sitting with the situation here that the contract has almost come to a conclusion. We share the sentiments and the congratulations and commendations to the Speaker and the NCOP Chair for not allowing this just to run the 10 weeks that are left of the contract, and to send a very strong message that the disciplinary action has been concluded and that this Parliament will support the findings of the disciplinary hearing. Lastly, we would also support the study of the evidence and the findings of the disciplinary action to see whether there is evidence that could be the basis for criminal action and civil action to recover those funds that have been taken. We believe not only the disciplinary action, but further action should be taken to recover the ill-gotten gains. The ACDP will support this motion. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Machau.
enkosi kakhulu mhlali ngaphambili. Si-African Transformation Movement, si-supporta kakhulu le movement. Le motion, ibekwe apha phambi kwethu yi-African National Congress Chief Whip. Into esiyithethayo ke kwakhona sithi, i-vetting is of vital importance. Ukuba xa kuzawuqashwa abantu kwi-critical position, i-vetting must make a point that iyenzeka. And the State Security Department, i-recommendations azo, must implement as adherishwe, because what we discovered is that sometimes baya recommend abesithi makangathathwa lo mntu kodwa athi umphathi institution ndizawuthatha i-risk izawuba yeyam ndimthathe lo mntu izala ke ngoku izinto ezifana nezi. So ngaloo mazwi athile siyaqonda ukuba libethwa kube kanye libone sithi motion siyayisupporta esithemba iba izophinde yenzeke into efana nale. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Kwankwa.
Nalo ke sela nangoli banjiwe. House Chair and honourable members, we indeed, as the United Democratic Movement, we support the motion. I just want to show you a letter that we wrote. I personally wrote on behalf of my party in 2016 on the 14th of April, where I was raising precisely some of the allegations which are contained in the order paper in the motion today, asking the Speaker of Parliament, requesting the Speaker of Parliament to look into these matters and to investigate them. The Speaker of Parliament at the time responded by saying they were going to look into the matter, and a month and a half later there was a budget vote, budget vote 2, where she exonerated Mgidlana of any wrongdoing at the time. And I was very upset in that debate, because at the time what was happening is precisely what Honourable Singh cited earlier to say, how workers raised these issues consistently, they were ignored. They were beaten up by the police outside, tear gassed for raising these irregularities and the corruption that was taking place, because the Speaker to Parliament at the time, rather not the Speaker to Parliament, the Secretary to Parliament was getting protection from some people in the executive authority. As we celebrate this victory, long overdue victory, we have to take steps to ensure that this doesn't happen again. I want to make another example and say, immediately after I wrote this letter to the Speaker and started making noise, I was accused by the very same arrogant executive management of Parliament of being naive, of not understanding governance issues. And I was called for an interview to say, do I want to respond? I said, but a Secretary to Parliament is my employee. Under no circumstances can I argue with the Secretary to Parliament or his executive management in the media. The person that we're supposed to be speaking to was the Speaker and the Executive Authority of Parliament. It's these governance issues that we must sort out. The other issue was, immediately after I raised the issue, then because the Secretary to Parliament is the accounting officer of the funds that we received, they started trying to find reasons why they could withhold money from the UDM, the quarterly allocation. I raised this issue as well, and I said, why am I being expected to present myself to the office of my employee and explain the financials of the UDM? Why am I not being called by the Executive Authority of Parliament to do so? Galamandla sibanika bantu sibaqeshile baphinde babe ngathi basiqeshile. And yazi noba niphatha njani nilawula, you are a government in office but not in power. Because kutheni leto sizawuphinde ngosibizwe sibizwa ngabantu sibaqeshile. Naxa kwi-study tours I raised this issue and said, Sikhabe Executive Authority of Parliament on a study tour, but bangathi ngabona abantu by part of the delegation. Uyawukhwela itaxi, Mgidlana wayikhwela iBenz zodide China.
Honourable Member, your time is now
These are the
expired.
problems we must address. Ngabe siyilungisela and amasela.
The next speaker is the Honourable Chaisa.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Also, as AIC, we support the motion. It cannot be correct now that we can keep thieves in our system and departments and in Parliament. We are happy, therefore, that this has come to an end. And there are many of these instances that should be looked into, so that now these happenings now may be kept or prevented from happening. We should be a government now that is always against corruption, when we should also see the corruption when it is coming about to happen. then we should be proactive and prevent it from happening. So when these instances are reported, so we should take action immediately. We should not wait. Rather, we should not wait until there's a lot of damage that has been caused. I wish that I can even speak now about other parties, rather other monies that are being allocated to us as political parties. I think next time now we should talk about this because there are monies that are being allocated to us, so they must also be looked into how are we using these monies. Otherwise, they support the motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is Honourable Madisha.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. That it has been proven that the said culprit committed what has been put before Parliament today gives scope reason to agree with the motion wholly. And we therefore support that which all the other parties have said. There is this thing that is called a cadre deployment. That must end, and only persons with capacity and honesty must be given work to serve South Africans. I want to emphasize that it is not happening only at the national level. Even in the provinces, the same thing is happening. And that is a major, major problem. And the monies, the funds, money that must go to the people of South Africa, the working class and the poor people, is actually just disappearing like that. And that is a very serious problem. Now, I want to refer to one of the departments at this level, a chairperson, which instead of employing the number of persons that it was to employ, and that is 80, that department, and members know, has gone on to employ about 500 people. Now that is cadre deployment, and that is a major, major problem. And these are the things that have got to be dealt with. If at the level of the minister and those persons that work under him or her, you have more than 500 people employed instead of only 80. It means there is a very serious problem. And here, Chairperson, Honorable Chair, we're talking about that which is actually there. There is proof. There is a problem here in South Africa, starting, of course, at this very level. That has got to be dealt with. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Deputy Chief Whip of the Majority Party.
Thank you, Honourable House Chairperson. The ANC commends and welcomes the decision by the Executive Authority to take the necessary steps and deal with this issue of the Secretary to Parliament. We welcome also the decision and recommendations of the Chairperson of the disciplinary hearing. We support it as the ANC. Honourable members, yes, the process took long, but I want to remind this House that ngitsi tishaya malunga alesishaya mthetho. Ngithi lekufanele siqinise imithetho ukuthi umuntu nangabe atholakala anelicala lekukhwabanisa makamiswa emsebenzini kwesikhashana angaholelwa angalitholi liholo. Siqinise futhi lemthetho ukuthi mase futhi kulandzelwe yonke lemigomo lekufanele ilandzelwe. Loyo muntu uyeva Steniza, loyo muntu atholakale ukuthi ukhokhela tonke letimali leti lati khwabanisile ngoba sonke sihleti la sibhadala intsela ene iyaslimata kakhulu leyo ntsela incedza ebantfu labahluphekile. Singparlamente simalunga etinhlangano letihlukahlukene. Siyakhala ukuthi asinikedwa timali letifanele, letanele. Ngiyacabanga ukuthi ngekuqinisa leyo mthetho ukuthi awenda ukuthi bantu labaningi basabe ukuthi banjonje esikhwameni sahulumende noma seliparlamente. Ngicabanga ukuthi lokho kufanele kuqale kulo leli parliamente. Kuningi lekufanele sikulungisa. Yebo singema la sithi high cadre deployment kuqashanwa ngekuthi ulilunga la iphi inhlangano noma kunalabe bahudula tinyawo ekutheni lelicala lingaqedwa akusilo liqiniso. Lebe kufanele kwendeke ukuthi kulandzelwe imithetho ngendlela yakhona kude lento ingabuyi emva ishaye lona liparlamente ukuthi kufanele likhokhele umuntu ngoba bangahambisanga kahle izinto. Angithi lesishaya imithetho levikela labantu labonako lebaniketa lithuba lokuthi labantu bahambe nabo bende le process yonke ihambe kancane ngoba banemalungelo ukuthi bativikele. Kufanele siyishintshe le mthetho sende isiqiniseko sokuthi siyayiqinisa kungeke kutophela lokukhwabanisa lokukhona ngoba lokho kungumdlavuza lolimata live lethu ene bantwana bethu bayalimala ngetindzaba tokukhwabanisa ngoba kunetinsita lekufanele tiye kubo nebantu labahluphekile abakhona ukuthi ithola ngendzaba yokukhwabanisa even lethu. Ngiyabonga.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Members, I put the question again. Are there any objections to the motion as moved by the Deputy Chief Whip of the Majority Party? No objections, agreed to. That concludes the business for the day and the House is adjourned.